Hello, English learners. Welcome back to English in Minutes 2.0. I am Emma, your host for today. If you are new here, I would like to tell you that we upload a new English learning video regularly on our channel to help you improve your English faster and more effectively. In today's episode, you will not only improve your English listening skills, but also your English speaking skills. In today's lesson, we're diving into a powerful and highly practical topic that will help you improve your English fluency and real-life communication. Intermediate English Conversations Practice Masterclass. We will go through real-life daily conversation examples that will help you catch natural English, understand sentence flow, and pick up useful phrases so you can speak more confidently and more naturally. Whether you're having casual conversations, expressing your thoughts, explaining your experiences, asking and answering questions, or reacting naturally in daily life situations, conversation practice is one of the most important skills you need to move from basic English to intermediate fluency. By the end of this video, you'll understand how to respond more naturally in conversations, how to extend your answers clearly, and how to sound more like a native English speaker when you speak. Before we start the video, make sure to subscribe to the channel and also press the bell icon if you want more helpful English learning episodes like this. So, grab a pen and paper and get ready to speak with me. Let's get started. Let's start with something simple but powerful. Conversation is not about using difficult words. It is about connecting ideas smoothly and responding naturally in real time. Many English learners know grammar rules, understand vocabulary, and can even read complex texts. But when it comes to speaking, they hesitate. They pause too long. They translate in their minds, and they feel nervous about making mistakes. Today, we begin changing that step by step by practicing real conversations that you can actually use in daily life. Imagine someone asks you a very common question. How was your day? This looks easy, right? But many learners answer in a very short way. They say, "It was good," or "It was fine." And then, the conversation stops. To sound more natural and intermediate, you need to expand your answer. For example, you can say, "It was pretty good. Actually, I had a busy morning at work, but the afternoon was much more relaxed." Notice how this answer gives more detail and creates space for the other person to respond. Now, repeat after me, slowly. "It was pretty good, actually. I had a busy morning at work, but the afternoon was much more relaxed." Say it again, with confidence. Good. Now, let's build on this. If someone says, "What did you do today?" instead of saying, "I worked," you can say, "I worked most of the day, but I also managed to finish a project I've been working on for weeks." This sounds more complete and shows control of tense and sentence flow. Repeat after me. "I worked most of the day, but I also managed to finish a project I've been working on for weeks." Excellent. Now, let's practice a small conversation together. I will say both parts, and then you repeat the second part, as if you are answering. Listen first. "Hey, how's everything going?" Your answer could be, "Everything's going well so far. I've been trying to stay productive, and I'm feeling pretty motivated this week." Now, how you say it, slowly and clearly. Everything's going well so far. I've been trying to stay productive, and I'm feeling pretty motivated this week. Very good. One important skill at the intermediate level is adding small connecting words. Words like actually, basically, honestly, to be honest, in fact, lately, recently. By the way, these words make you sound natural. For example, instead of saying, I don't like coffee, you can say, I don't really like coffee. To be honest, I prefer tea most of the time. Repeat that. I don't really like coffee. To be honest, I prefer tea most of the time. Good. Now, let's practice expressing opinions. Imagine your friend asks, what do you think about working from home? A basic answer might be, it is good. But an intermediate answer sounds like this. I think working from home has its advantages, especially because it saves time and gives you more flexibility. However, it can also feel isolating sometimes. Repeat after me. I think working from home has its advantages, especially because it saves time and gives you more flexibility. However, it can also feel isolating sometimes. Excellent. Notice the balance in the sentence. You gave both positive and negative points, which is a very natural conversation style. Now, let's practice reacting in conversation. Reactions are extremely important. When someone tells you something surprising, you can say, really? That's interesting. Or sound more natural by saying, oh wow, I didn't expect that. Tell me more about it. Repeat. Oh wow, I didn't expect that. Tell me more about it. Good. That sounds engaged and curious. Let's move to daily routine conversations. Imagine someone asks, what do you usually do after work? Instead of saying, I go home, you can say, I usually head straight home, but sometimes I stop by a cafe to unwind and clear my mind before the evening. Repeat that sentence. I usually head straight home, but sometimes I stop by a cafe to unwind and clear my mind before the evening. Very nice. The phrases head straight home and unwind are very natural expressions. Now, let's practice talking about past experiences. Suppose someone asks, have you ever traveled abroad? You can say, yes, I have. I visited Turkey a few years ago, and it was an unforgettable experience. The culture, the food, and the people were all amazing. Repeat after me. I visited Turkey a few years ago, and it was an unforgettable experience. Excellent. Another important skill is asking follow-up questions. Conversation is not just answering, it is also asking. If someone tells you, I started a new job last week, you can respond with, that sounds exciting. What kind of work are you doing? Repeat. That sounds exciting. What kind of work are you doing? Good. This keeps the conversation alive. Now, let's practice a longer natural dialogue flow. Listen carefully. How have you been lately? A strong answer could be, I've been doing quite well actually. I've been focusing on improving my skills and setting new goals for myself. It feels good to stay busy. Now, repeat that. I've been doing quite well actually. I've been focusing on improving my skills and setting new goals for myself. Very good. Notice how we are using present perfect tense naturally. I've been focusing. Practice it again. I've been focusing on improving my skills. Great. Now. Now let's work on expressing problems politely. Instead of saying, I'm tired, you can say, I've been feeling a bit exhausted lately because I haven't been sleeping well. Repeat, I've been feeling a bit exhausted lately because I haven't been sleeping well. Excellent. Now, imagine you are meeting someone for the first time. They ask, So, what do you do? You can respond naturally by saying, I work in marketing, and I mainly focus on digital campaigns and content creation. It keeps me quite busy, but I enjoy the creativity. Repeat that sentence. I work in marketing, and I mainly focus on digital campaigns and content creation. Good. Now, let's strengthen your ability to extend conversations. If someone says, It's really hot today, don't just agree. You can say, Yes, it is. I wasn't expecting it to be this warm, so early in the season. It almost feels like summer already. Repeat, I wasn't expecting it to be this warm, so early in the season. Excellent. Let's practice giving suggestions. Imagine your friend says, I want to improve my English. You can respond, You might want to practice speaking every day, even if it's just for 15 minutes. Consistency really makes a difference. Repeat after me. Consistency really makes a difference. Very good. Now, see, we will combine everything in a short practice scenario. Imagine I ask you, What are your plans for the weekend? Your answer could be, I'm planning to catch up on some reading and maybe spend time with my family. I've also been thinking about starting a new hobby, but I haven't decided yet. Now, repeat that entire response, slowly, clearly, confidently. Excellent. Remember, fluency is not about speaking fast. It is about speaking smoothly and clearly. When you practice, focus on rhythm. So notice how sentences rise and fall naturally. For example, I've also been thinking about starting a new hobby. The tone goes up slightly and then comes down. Try saying it again with natural rhythm. Now, let's practice expressing preferences. If someone asks, Do you prefer watching movies at home or at the cinema? You can say, I usually prefer watching movies at home because it's more comfortable, but going to the cinema has a special atmosphere that you can't really recreate. Repeat that. Going to the cinema has a special atmosphere that you can't really recreate. Excellent! Finally, let's continue this first training session with a full conversation simulation. Listen, ask carefully. Hey Emma, what have you been up to recently? Your response could be, I've been working on improving my communication skills and trying to challenge myself with new projects. It hasn't always been easy, but I've definitely learned a lot. Now, repeat that whole response, slowly and confidently. Wonderful! You are already practicing intermediate conversation structures. You are expanding answers, adding details, and reacting naturally. Keep speaking out loud. The more you train your mouth and your ears together, the more automatic your English will become. Now, let's continue by strengthening one of the most important intermediate skills, learning how to keep a conversation flowing naturally, without long pauses. Many learners answer questions well, but they stop too quickly. A natural English speaker rarely gives only one short sentence. They add a reason, a feeling, or a small story. This is what we will practice now. Imagine someone asks you, How do you usually start your mornings? A simple answer would be, I wake up and go to work. But let's expand it into something more natural and detailed. You could say, I usually start my mornings quietly. I wake up around 7, make myself a cup of coffee, and spend a few minutes checking my messages before getting ready for work. It helps me feel organized and calm before the day begins. Now, repeat that whole response slowly. I usually start my mornings quietly. I wake up around 7, make myself a cup of coffee, and spend a few minutes checking my messages before getting ready for work. Very good. Notice how you described actions step by step. That makes your speech more engaging. Now, let's practice describing habits. If someone asks, do you exercise regularly? Instead of saying, yes, so I do, try saying, I try to exercise at least 3 times a week. Sometimes I go for a run, and other times I do simple workouts at home. It really helps me manage stress. Repeat after me. I try to exercise at least 3 times a week. Sometimes I go for a run, and other times I do simple workouts at home. Excellent. The key word here is try. It sounds realistic and honest. Now, let's move into social conversations. Imagine you meet a friend after a long time, and they say, it's been a while. What's new with you? You could respond, yes, it really has been a while. Lately, I've been focusing on personal growth and improving my skills. I've also been spending more time with family, which has been really meaningful. Repeat that sentence. Lately, I've been focusing on personal growth and improving my skills. Very good. That present perfect structure again makes your speech sound natural. Let's practice giving explanations. Suppose someone asks, why did you decide to learn English? Instead of saying, because it is important, say, I decided to learn English because I realized how many opportunities it can create. It allows me to connect with more people, access more information, and feel more confident in professional situations. Repeat after me. It allows me to connect with more people, access more information, and feel more confident in professional situations. Excellent. Now, we will practice agreeing and disagreeing politely. If someone says, I think working late is necessary to succeed, you might respond, I see your point. And sometimes working late is unavoidable. However, I believe maintaining a healthy balance is just as important. Repeat that. I see your point, and sometimes working late is unavoidable. However, I believe maintaining a healthy balance is just as important. Very good. This type of balanced response is typical of intermediate and advanced speakers. Let's continue with making small talk. Small talk is essential in daily life. Imagine you are waiting somewhere, and someone says, this place is really busy today. You can reply, yes, it seems busier than usual. I guess everyone decided to come at the same time. Repeat after me. It seems busier than usual. Great! That phrase is very natural. Now, let's practice talking about future plans. If someone asks, where do you see yourself in 5 years? You might say, in 5 years, I hope to have developed my career further and gained more experience in my field. I'd also like to have traveled to a few new countries. Repeat that whole answer slowly. Excellent. Notice the use of hope to and would like to. These expressions help you speak about the future politely and clearly. Now, We will practice telling short stories. Storytelling is a powerful conversation skill. Imagine someone asks, "Did anything interesting happen this week?" You could say, "Actually, yes. Earlier this week, I ran into an old friend unexpectedly at a cafe. We hadn't seen each other in years, so we ended up talking for hours and catching up on everything." Repeat after me. I ran into an old friend unexpectedly at a cafe. Perfect. The phrase ran into means met by chance. That is a natural expression. Let's practice expressing feelings more clearly. If someone asks, "How did you feel about that?" Instead of saying, "I was happy," say, "I was genuinely happy," and a bit surprised at the same time. It reminded me of how important friendships are. Repeat that. I was genuinely happy and a bit surprised at the same time. Excellent. Now, we will work on handling misunderstandings. In real conversations, sometimes you don't understand something. Instead of staying silent, you can say, "Sorry, could you clarify what you mean?" Or, "I'm not sure I understood that correctly. Could you explain it again?" Repeat after me. I'm not sure I understood that correctly. Could you explain it again? Very good. This shows confidence, not weakness. Let's continue with making suggestions in daily life. If your friend says, "I feel stressed lately," you might respond, "Maybe you should take a short break and focus on something you enjoy." Even a small change can make a big difference. Repeat that sentence. Even a small change can make a big difference. Excellent. Now, let's practice comparing things. Suppose someone asks, "Is city life better than living in the countryside?" You could answer, "It really depends on what you're looking for. City life offers more opportunities and convenience, but the countryside provides peace and a slower pace of life." Repeat after me. It really depends on what you're looking for. Very good. That phrase is extremely useful in conversations. Now, let's do a full conversation practice. I will guide the flow, and you respond as if you are speaking naturally. Listen first. How was your weekend? Your answer could be, "It was quite relaxing. I didn't do anything extraordinary, but I managed to rest and spend quality time with my family." Repeat that whole answer. Good. Now, I say, "That sounds nice. Did you go anywhere?" You respond, "Not really. I mostly stayed at home, but I did go for a short walk in the evening, which was refreshing." Repeat. Excellent. Now, I say, "Do you usually prefer quiet weekends?" You respond, "Yes, most of the time. After a busy week, I appreciate having some quiet time to recharge." Repeat that sentence. Wonderful. This is how conversations naturally build. Question, response, follow-up, explanation. Keep practicing this rhythm. Now, let's practice speaking about goals. If someone asks, "What are you currently working on improving?" You can say, "I'm currently working on improving my communication skills and becoming more confident when expressing my ideas. It's a gradual process, but I'm making progress." Repeat that. It's a gradual process, but I'm making progress. Excellent. We will now focus on sounding more natural by softening statements. Instead of saying, "That is wrong," you can say, "I'm not sure that's entirely accurate." Repeat. I'm not sure that's entirely accurate. Good. This sounds polite and mature. Now, let's combine several skills into one longer response. Imagine someone asks, "What motivates you to keep learning?" You might answer, "What motivates me most is the feeling of growth. Every time I learn something new, I feel more capable and more confident. It also opens new doors, both personally and professionally." Repeat that entire response, slowly, confidently. Excellent. Take a moment to notice your progress. You are no longer giving one-word answers. You are forming layered responses. You are using connectors, explanations, and feelings. That is the transition from basic to intermediate conversation. Keep speaking out loud as we move forward. Fluency develops through repetition and rhythm. Now, let's move deeper into real conversational dynamics. Because at the intermediate level, it is not just about answering questions well, it is also about managing the flow of interaction. You need to know how to enter a conversation, how to shift topics smoothly, and how to close a discussion naturally without sounding abrupt. Let's begin with entering a conversation. Imagine two colleagues are talking, and you want to join politely. Instead of interrupting awkwardly, you could say, "Sorry to jump in, but I couldn't help overhearing your conversation about travel." Repeat that. "Sorry to jump in, but I couldn't help overhearing your conversation about travel." Very good. That sounds respectful and natural. Now, imagine you are already in a conversation and you want to change the topic smoothly. You can say, "By the way, have you heard about the new project starting next month?" Repeat. "By the way, have you heard about the new project starting next month?" Excellent. The phrase "by the way" helps you shift topics naturally. Let's practice this in context. Suppose you were talking about weekend plans, and now, "So you want to talk about work?" You might say, "Anyway, speaking of busy schedules, how is your work going these days?" Repeat that sentence. "Anyway, speaking of busy schedules, how is your work going these days?" Perfect. Notice how "anyway" and "speaking of" connect ideas smoothly. Now, let's work on expressing uncertainty. Intermediate speakers don't always speak in absolute terms. They use softer language. Instead of saying, "It will happen," you can say, "It might happen, but I'm not completely sure yet." Repeat. "It might happen, but I'm not completely sure yet." Good. The word "might" makes your speech more flexible. Let's continue with expressing possibility and probability. Imagine someone asks, "Do you think the meeting will take long?" You could say, "It could take longer than expected if we have a lot to discuss, but hopefully it will be efficient." Repeat that. "It could take longer than expected if we have a lot to discuss." Excellent. Now, we will practice expressing agreement in different ways. Instead of always saying, "I agree," try using variations. For example, "That makes a lot of sense." Repeat. "That makes a lot of sense." Good. Another one. "I couldn't agree more." Repeat. "I couldn't agree more." Excellent. And one more. "You have a point there." Repeat. Very good. Now, let's practice disagreeing gently. If someone says, "I think social media is a waste of time," you might respond, "I understand why you might feel that way, but I think it depends on how you use it." Repeat that sentence. "I understand why you might feel that way, but I think it depends on how you use it." Excellent. This sounds balanced and respectful. Now, let's practice making your speech more descriptive. If someone asks, "How was the restaurant?" Instead of saying, "It was good," say, "It was surprisingly good. The atmosphere was cozy, the service was attentive, and the food exceeded my expectations." Repeat after me. The food exceeded my expectations. Wonderful. That phrase sounds very natural. Let's move into professional conversations. Imagine your manager asks, "Can you handle this task?" Instead of saying, "Yes," you can say, "Yes. I'd be happy to take that on. I'll make sure it's completed by the deadline." Repeat. I'll make sure it's completed by the deadline. Very good. Now, imagine you need more time. Instead of saying, "I can't," try saying, "I'd love to help, but I'm currently tied up with another assignment. Could we possibly adjust the timeline?" Repeat that sentence. I'm currently tied up with another assignment. Excellent. The phrase tied up means busy. Now, let's practice expressing surprise naturally. If someone says, "I finished the project in 1 day," you might respond, "Seriously? That's impressive. I didn't realize it could be done that quickly." Repeat. I didn't realize it could be done that quickly. Perfect. Now, see, let's practice talking about personal development. If someone asks, "What challenges have you faced recently?" you might say, "One of the biggest challenges I've faced recently has been managing my time effectively. I've had to prioritize tasks more carefully and avoid distractions." Repeat after me. I've had to prioritize tasks more carefully and avoid distractions. Excellent. Now, let's build a longer interaction together. Listen carefully, and then repeat your part. I say, "You seem more confident lately. Have you been working on something new?" You respond, "Actually, yes. I've been practicing speaking more often and pushing myself out of my comfort zone. It hasn't been easy, but I've noticed significant improvement." Repeat that entire answer. Very good. Now, I say, "That's great to hear. What motivates you to keep going?" You respond, "I think what motivates me most is seeing small progress every day. Even small improvements remind me that consistency truly pays off." Repeat that. Consistency truly pays off. Excellent. Now, let's focus on expressing preferences with explanation. If someone asks, "Do you prefer working alone or in a team?" you might say, "I appreciate both, but I slightly prefer working in a team because exchanging ideas often leads to better results." Repeat that sentence. Exchanging ideas often leads to better results. To better results. Very good. Now, we will practice hypothetical situations. If someone asks, "What would you do if you had a month off?" you could say, "If I had a month off, I would probably travel somewhere peaceful and focus on personal reflection. It would be a great opportunity to reset and recharge." Repeat. It would be a great opportunity to reset and recharge. Excellent. Let's practice giving advice in a thoughtful way. If someone says, "I feel stuck in my career," you might respond, "Have you considered developing a new skill or exploring a different area?" Sometimes stepping outside your routine can create unexpected opportunities. Repeat that. Sometimes stepping outside your routine can create unexpected opportunities. Very good. Now, let's strengthen storytelling again. Imagine someone asks, "What was the most memorable part of your week?" You might say, "The most memorable part of my week was finishing a task I had been postponing for months. Completing it gave me a huge sense of relief and accomplishment." Repeat. Completing it gave me a huge sense of relief and accomplishment. Excellent. Let's now practice handling compliments. If someone says, "You speak English very well," instead of saying, "Thank you," you can expand it by saying, "Thank you. I really appreciate that. I've been practicing consistently, so it means a lot to hear that." Repeat after me. "I've been practicing consistently, so it means a lot to hear that." Wonderful. Now, we will combine multiple skills into a longer conversation simulation. Listen carefully. "Hi, Emma. What have you been focusing on lately?" Your answer could be, "Lately, I've been focusing on improving my communication skills and building more confidence in professional settings. I've realized that clear communication can truly make a difference." Repeat that whole answer. Good. Now, I say, "That sounds productive. Has it been challenging?" You respond, "Yes, at times it has been challenging, especially when stepping out of my comfort zone. However, every challenge has taught me something valuable." Repeat. Every challenge has taught me something valuable. Excellent. Now, so I say, "What advice would you give to someone who wants to improve?" You respond, "I would say, start small, but stay consistent. Progress might feel slow at first, but over time, the improvement becomes noticeable." Repeat that entire response. Wonderful. Notice how your answers are structured. You introduce the idea, you explain it, you add reflection. That is intermediate conversation flow. Take a moment and notice your progress again. Your sentences are becoming longer, smoother, and more expressive. You are thinking in ideas, not just words. That is real development. Keep your voice steady and confident as we continue training your fluency. Now, let's continue by strengthening one of the most powerful intermediate skills, learning how to express deeper thoughts and emotions in conversations. At this level, you are not only exchanging information, you are sharing perspectives, experiences, and reflections. This makes your speech richer and more natural. Imagine someone asks you, "What has been on your mind lately?" A basic answer might be, "Nothing much." But an intermediate answer could sound like this: "Honestly, I've been thinking a lot about my long-term goals and whether I'm moving in the right direction. It's something I reflect on quite often." Repeat that slowly. "I've been thinking a lot about my long-term goals and whether I'm moving in the right direction." Excellent! Notice how that answer shows thoughtfulness. Now, let's practice expressing mixed emotions. Suppose someone asks, "How did you feel about the decision?" Instead of saying, "I was nervous," you can say, "I felt a bit nervous at first, but at the same time, I was excited about the possibilities." Repeat. "I felt a bit nervous at first, but at the same time, I was excited about the possibilities." Very good. The phrase, "at the same time," helps connect contrasting feelings smoothly. Now, we will practice talking about improvements and progress. If someone asks, "Have you improved recently?" you might say, Yes, I believe I have. I've been putting in consistent effort, and I can definitely see gradual improvement. Repeat that. I've been putting in consistent effort, and I can definitely see gradual improvement. Great. Excellent. Let's move into handling criticism politely. Imagine someone says, I think you could have done better. Instead of reacting defensively, you can respond. I appreciate your feedback. I'll definitely take it into consideration and try to improve next time. Repeat that sentence. I'll definitely take it into consideration and try to improve next time. Perfect. This shows maturity and confidence. Now, let's practice expressing gratitude in a more natural way. If someone helps you, instead of just saying, thanks, you can say, I really appreciate your help. It made the situation much easier to handle. Repeat. It made the situation much easier to handle. Excellent. Let's strengthen your ability to describe experiences in detail. If someone asks, how was your vacation? You might respond, it was refreshing and much needed. I disconnected from work completely and spent time exploring new places, which helped me clear my mind. Repeat that entire answer slowly. Very good. Now, let's practice asking deeper follow-up questions. If someone tells you, I've been feeling stressed, you can respond with, what do you think has been causing that stress? Repeat after me. What do you think has been causing that stress? Excellent. That question invites deeper conversation. Now we will practice expressing hesitation naturally. Instead of saying, I don't know, you can say, I'm not entirely sure yet, but I'm still thinking about it. Repeat. I'm not entirely sure yet, but I'm still thinking about it. Good. That sounds thoughtful. Let's practice describing changes over time. If someone asks, have you changed in the last few years? You could say, yes, I believe I've become more patient and more open to different perspectives. Life experiences have definitely shaped my mindset. Repeat that sentence. Life experiences have definitely shaped my mindset. Excellent! Now, let's work on expressing concerns. If someone asks, is everything okay? You might respond, everything is mostly fine, but I've been slightly concerned about balancing my responsibilities. Repeat. I've been slightly concerned about balancing my responsibilities. Very good. Now, we will practice expressing enthusiasm. If someone shares good news, you can say, that's fantastic news. You must be thrilled. Meh. Repeat. You must be thrilled. Excellent. Let's combine these skills into a realistic daily conversation. Listen carefully. Emma, you seem thoughtful today. Is something on your mind? Your answer could be, yes, I've been reflecting on some recent decisions and considering how they might affect my future. It's not negative, just something I'm analyzing. Repeat that entire response. Good. Now, I say, do you feel confident about those decisions? You respond, for the most part, yes, I believe I made the best choice, with the information I had at the time. Repeat, I believe I made the best choice, with the information I had at the time. Excellent. Now, Haas, I say, that sounds reasonable. What have you learned from it? You respond, I've learned that growth often comes from stepping into uncertainty, Even when things feel uncomfortable, they can lead to valuable lessons. Repeat that sentence. Wonderful. Now. So let's practice describing personality traits in conversation. If someone asks, "How would you describe yourself?" You might say, "I would describe myself as adaptable and curious. I enjoy learning new things and adjusting to different situations." Repeat after me. I enjoy learning new things and adjusting to different situations. Excellent. Now, let's practice expressing limits politely. If someone invites you somewhere, but you cannot go, you might say, "I'd really like to join, but I've already made other plans. Maybe next time." Repeat. I'd really like to join, but I've already made other plans. Good. Let's move into workplace conversation again. If someone asks, "How do you handle pressure?" you could say, "I try to stay organized and break tasks into smaller steps. That way, the pressure feels more manageable." Repeat. That. That way, the pressure feels more manageable. Excellent. Now, let's practice expressing curiosity. If someone mentions something new, you can respond with, "That's interesting. How did you get involved in that?" Repeat. How did you get involved in that? Very good. Now, see, we will work on longer reflective answers. Imagine someone asks, "What does success mean to you?" You might respond, "To me, success means continuous improvement and personal fulfillment. It's not just about achievements, but also about growth and meaningful relationships." Repeat that entire answer slowly. Excellent. Let's practice talking about mistakes. If someone asks, "Have you ever made a big mistake?" you could say, "Yes, I have. I once underestimated the importance of die preparation, and it taught me to plan more carefully in the future." Repeat that. It taught me to plan more carefully in the future. Very good. Now, let's practice encouraging someone. If someone says, "I'm afraid I'll fail," you might respond, "It's completely normal to feel that way, but remember that every attempt brings experience and learning." Repeat after me. Every attempt brings experience and learning. Excellent. Now, we will combine everything into a longer simulated dialogue. Listen first. Emma, what motivates you during difficult times? Your answer could be, "During difficult times, I remind myself why I started in the first place. I focus on the bigger picture and try to stay patient with the process." Repeat that. Very good. Now, I say, "Do you ever doubt yourself?" You respond, "Of course, sometimes I do. But I've learned that doubt can be a sign of growth because it pushes you to reflect and improve." Repeat that entire sentence. Excellent. Now, I say, "That's a healthy mindset." You respond, "Thank you. I believe mindset plays a huge role in how we handle challenges." Repeat. Mindset plays a huge role in how we handle challenges. Wonderful. Notice how natural these conversations feel. You are speaking with depth, balance, and reflection. That is exactly how intermediate speakers communicate. Take a deep breath again, relax your voice, and recognize your improvement. You are building fluency, not just by memorizing phrases, but next by understanding how ideas connect. Now, let's continue by working on something that truly separates intermediate speakers from basic speakers: the ability to handle longer, spontaneous conversations without losing clarity. At this stage, you are not just responding, you are thinking, organizing, and delivering ideas smoothly in real time. That is what we are going to strengthen now. Imagine someone asks you, "Can you tell me about a recent challenge you faced?" Instead of giving a short answer, structure it clearly. You might say, "Recently, I faced a challenge related to managing multiple responsibilities at once. At first, I felt slightly overwhelmed because everything seemed urgent. However, once I organized my tasks and prioritized them properly, the situation became much more manageable." Repeat that entire response slowly. Recently, I faced a challenge related to managing multiple responsibilities at once. Excellent. Notice how you introduce the situation, describe the emotion, and explain the solution. That structure is powerful. Now, let's practice expanding simple experiences into richer stories. Suppose someone asks, "Did you enjoy your weekend?" Instead of saying, "Yes, it was nice," you could say, "Yes, I really did. I took some time to disconnect from work and focus on relaxing activities. I went for a walk in the park, spent some time reading, and even tried cooking a new recipe." Repeat that sentence. I took some time to disconnect from work and focus on relaxing activities. Very good. Now, we will practice expressing contrast more smoothly. If someone asks, "Do you enjoy working remotely?" you might say, "I enjoy the flexibility that remote work offers. On the other hand, I sometimes miss the face-to-face interaction with colleagues." Repeat. On the other hand, I sometimes miss the face-to-face interaction with colleagues. Excellent. On the other hand is a strong contrast connector. Let's practice clarifying your thoughts mid-sentence. Sometimes when you speak, you need to reorganize your ideas. Instead of stopping completely, you can say, "What I mean is," for example, "I think the experience was valuable. What I mean is, it taught me patience and resilience." Repeat after me. What I mean is, it taught me patience and resilience. Perfect. That phrase helps you stay fluent even when adjusting your idea. Now, let's practice expressing gradual change. If someone asks, "Have your goals changed over time?" you could say, "Yes, they have evolved gradually. In the beginning, I focused mostly on short-term achievements, but now, I'm more interested in long-term growth and stability." Repeat that sentence. They have evolved gradually. Excellent. Now, let's work on giving balanced opinions in discussions. Imagine someone says, "Technology is making people less social." You could respond, "I think technology has both positive and negative effects. While it allows us to stay connected easily, it can also reduce face-to-face communication if not used carefully." Repeat that entire response slowly. Very good. Let's practice asking for opinions naturally. If you want to involve someone in conversation, you can say, "What's your take on that?" Repeat, "What's your take on that?" Excellent. That phrase sounds very natural and conversational. Now, we will practice explaining decisions clearly. Suppose someone asks, "Why did you choose that career path?" You might say, "I chose that career path because it aligns with my strengths and interests. I've always enjoyed problem solving and working with people, so it felt like a natural fit." Repeat after me. It aligns with my strengths and interests. Very good. Now, let's move into more spontaneous reactions. If someone shares unexpected news, you can say, I didn't see that coming, but it sounds like an exciting opportunity. Repeat. I didn't see that coming, but it sounds like an exciting opportunity. Excellent. Let's practice expressing mild disappointment politely. If someone cancels plans, you might say, "That's a bit disappointing, but I completely understand. We can reschedule sometime soon." Repeat that sentence. That's a bit disappointing, but I completely understand. Very good. Now, we will strengthen your ability to elaborate on experiences. Imagine someone asks, "What did you learn from that situation?" Instead of saying, "So, I learned a lot," you could say, "I learned that preparation and patience are crucial. I also realized that staying calm under pressure makes a significant difference." Repeat. Staying calm under pressure makes a significant difference. Excellent. Now, let's build a longer interactive scenario together. Listen carefully and then repeat your parts. I say, "Emma, have you ever stepped outside your comfort zone?" You respond, "Yes." "How many times?" Stepping outside my comfort zone has always felt uncomfortable at first, but it has consistently helped me grow and gain confidence. Repeat that entire answer. Very good. I say, "What was the most challenging part about it?" You respond, "The most challenging part was overcoming self-doubt. There were moments when I questioned my abilities, but pushing through those moments made me stronger." Repeat. Pushing through those moments made me stronger. Excellent. I say, "Would you recommend it to others?" You respond, "Absolutely. Even though it can feel intimidating, it often leads to personal and professional growth." Repeat that. Wonderful. Now, let's practice summarizing ideas clearly. If someone talks for a long time and you want to show understanding, you can say, "So, if I understand correctly, you're saying that consistency is more important than intensity." Repeat. "So, if I understand correctly." Excellent. Now, we will practice expressing hope and optimism. If someone asks, "Do you think things will improve?" you can say, "Yes, I believe things will gradually improve as long as we stay committed and adaptable." Repeat. As long as we stay committed and adaptable. Very good. Let's strengthen your ability to describe processes. If someone asks, "How did you improve your skills?" you could say, "I improved my skills by practicing consistently, seeking feedback, and reflecting on my mistakes. It was a gradual journey rather than an instant transformation." Repeat that entire answer slowly. Excellent. Now, let's practice expressing uncertainty with confidence. Instead of saying, "Maybe," you can say, "There's a strong possibility, but I can't say for certain yet." Repeat. There's a strong possibility, but I can't say for certain yet. Good. Now, we will do one more extended conversation practice to strengthen your fluency. I say, "Emma, how do you stay motivated during long projects?" You respond, "I stay motivated by setting small milestones and celebrating progress along the way. Breaking a large project into smaller tasks makes it feel more achievable." Repeat that. Excellent. I say, "Do you ever feel overwhelmed?" You respond, "Yes, occasionally I do. However, I've learned to pause, reassess my priorities, and move forward step by step." Repeat. I've learned to pause, reassess my priorities, ways and move forward step by step. Wonderful. I say, "What advice would you give someone starting something new?" You respond, I would advise them to be patient with themselves and focus on steady improvement rather than immediate perfection. Repeat that entire answer. Very good. Notice how you are now handling longer answers with confidence. You are using connectors, reflections, and structured ideas. Your sentences are flowing naturally from one thought to the next. Take another calm breath. Feel your voice becoming steadier, and recognize how much your fluency has expanded since we began. Now, let's continue by developing one of the most important intermediate conversation abilities: thinking aloud in English without freezing. In real life, you do not always have perfect, high-prepared answers. Sometimes you need a few seconds to organize your thoughts. Instead of going silent, natural speakers use small filler expressions that sound smooth and confident. For example, if someone asks you a difficult question like, "What do you think is the most important skill in today's world?" you don't have to answer immediately. You can begin with, "That's an interesting question. Let me think about it for a moment." Repeat that. "That's an interesting question. Let me think. Talk about it for a moment." Excellent. That gives your brain time to prepare. Then you continue with structure. You might say, "I believe adaptability is one of the most important skills today because the world is constantly changing." Repeat that sentence slowly. Very good. Notice how you bought time, then delivered a clear idea. Now, so let's practice expanding answers using examples. Suppose someone asks, "Why do you think communication is important?" Instead of saying, "Because it helps people," you could say, "I think communication is essential because it prevents misunderstandings and builds stronger relationships." For example, clear communication at work can improve teamwork and productivity. Repeat that entire answer. Excellent. Adding, "for example," strengthens your response. Now, let's practice expressing personal experiences with reflection. If someone asks, "Have you ever felt nervous before a presentation?" you could say, "Yes, many times. Before important presentations, I usually feel slightly nervous. However, I've learned that a bit of nervousness can actually improve my focus." Repeat after me. "A bit of nervousness can actually improve my focus." Very good. Now, we will work on describing daily responsibilities more professionally. If someone asks, "What does your typical workday look like?" instead of giving a short answer, you could say, "My typical workday involves responding to emails, attending meetings, and working on ongoing projects. I also dedicate time to planning and reviewing my progress." Repeat that. "I also dedicate time to planning and reviewing my progress." Excellent. Let's practice expressing personal growth again, but in a slightly more advanced way. If someone asks, "What have you improved about yourself recently?" you might say, "Recently, I've improved my ability to stay calm under pressure. I've realized that reacting calmly leads to better decisions." Repeat that sentence. Reacting calmly leads to better decisions. Perfect. Now, so let's move into social situations. Imagine you are at a gathering, and someone asks, "What do you like to do in your free time?" You could say, "In my free time, I enjoy activities that help me relax and recharge. I like reading, going for walks, and occasionally trying something creative." Repeat that slowly. Excellent. Now, Let's practice handling disagreements more confidently. Suppose someone says, I think success is only about money. You might respond, I respectfully disagree. While financial stability is important, I believe success also includes personal satisfaction and meaningful relationships. Repeat that. I respectfully disagree. Very good. That phrase is polite and strong. Now, we will strengthen your storytelling with more detail. If someone asks, what inspired you to start improving your English? You might say, I was inspired by the idea of connecting with people from different cultures. I realized that language opens doors to new experiences and opportunities. Repeat after me. Language opens doors to new experiences and opportunities. Excellent. Let's practice giving reassurance. If someone says, I'm worried about making mistakes when I speak, you could, respond, it's completely normal to make mistakes. In fact, mistakes are part of the learning process, and they help you improve. Repeat. Mistakes are part of the learning process. Very good. Now, let's work on describing future ambitions clearly. If someone asks, where would you like to be professionally in the future? You might answer, in the future, I'd like to take on more responsibility and contribute to meaningful projects that make a positive impact. Repeat that sentence. Contribute to meaningful projects that make a positive impact. Excellent. Now, we will practice handling unexpected situations in conversation. Imagine someone suddenly asks, what would you do if you had to move to another country? You might respond, if I had to move to another country, I would try to adapt quickly by learning about the culture and building new connections. Repeat that. I would try to adapt quickly by learning about the culture. Very good. Let's now combine all these skills into a longer real-life simulation. I say, Emma, what motivates you to keep improving every day? You respond, what motivates me most is the desire to grow and become better than I was yesterday. I believe that small daily improvements lead to long-term success. Repeat that entire response. Excellent, I say. Do you ever feel discouraged? You respond, yes, occasionally I do. However, I remind myself that setbacks are temporary and part of the journey. Repeat. Setbacks are temporary and part of the journey. Wonderful, I say. How do you stay? You're consistent? You respond, I stay consistent by setting realistic goals and tracking my progress. Seeing improvement, even in small steps, keeps me motivated. Repeat that entire answer. Very good. Now, let's practice explaining complex ideas more smoothly. If someone asks, why is mindset important? You might say, mindset shapes how we interpret challenges and opportunities. A positive mindset encourages resilience, while a negative mindset can limit growth. Repeat. Mindset shapes how we interpret challenges and opportunities. Excellent. Now, let's strengthen your ability to express reflection. If someone asks, looking back, what would you change? You could say, looking back, I would focus more on consistency rather than perfection. I've learned that progress matters more than flawless performance. Repeat that. Progress matters more than flawless performance. Very good. Let's practice expressing empathy. If someone shares a difficult situation, you can say, I can understand why that would be challenging. It must require a Lot of patience. Repeat. It must require a lot of patience. Excellent. Now, we will practice summarizing your personal philosophy. Imagine someone asks, "What is one principle you live by?" You might respond, "One principle I try to live by is continuous improvement. I believe there is always room to grow, no matter how experienced you are." Repeat that entire response slowly. Wonderful. You are now speaking in structured, confident paragraphs. You are connecting thoughts, adding reflection, and maintaining flow. This is exactly how intermediate speakers sound in real conversations. Keep your pace steady, keep your pronunciation clear, and allow your ideas to flow naturally. Now, let's continue by strengthening your ability to handle longer back and forth discussions without losing structure. At the intermediate level, conversations are no longer just question and answer. They become exchanges of viewpoints, experiences, and thoughtful reactions. You need to listen carefully, respond clearly, and sometimes expand the topic naturally. Imagine someone says, "I've been thinking about changing my career." Instead of giving a short reaction, you can respond in layers. You might say, "That sounds like a big decision. What made you start considering a change?" Repeat that. "That sounds like a big decision. What made you start considering a change?" Excellent. You reacted, acknowledged the importance, and asked a follow-up question. Now, imagine they answer, "I feel stuck and unmotivated." You could respond, "I can understand that feeling. Sometimes when we stay in the same situation for too long, it becomes difficult to stay inspired. Have you thought about what kind of work would excite you more?" Repeat that sentence slowly. Very good. Notice how you validated the emotion before offering direction. Now, let's practice describing long-term development. If someone asks, "How has your confidence improved over time?" You might say, "My confidence has improved gradually through practice and experience. At first, I used to doubt myself frequently, but over time, I realized that growth requires patience." Repeat. Growth requires patience. Excellent. Now, let's strengthen your ability to compare past and present. Suppose someone asks, "Are you different now compared to 5 years ago?" You could respond, "Yes, I believe I am. 5 years ago, I was more hesitant and unsure of myself. Today, I feel more decisive and comfortable expressing my opinions." Repeat that entire answer. Wonderful. Let's move into discussing daily routines with more complexity. If someone asks, "How do you usually handle a busy day?" Instead of saying, "I work hard," you can say, "When I have a busy day ahead, I try to prioritize tasks early in the morning. I focus on the most important responsibilities first, which helps me stay organized and productive." Repeat that. I focus on the most important responsibilities first. Very good. Now, let's practice responding to unexpected praise in a more natural way. If someone says, "You've made a lot of progress," you might respond, "Thank you. That means a lot. I've been putting in consistent effort, so I'm glad it's noticeable." Repeat. I've been putting in consistent effort, so I'm glad it's noticeable. Excellent. Now, we will practice expressing uncertainty while remaining confident. If someone asks, "Do you think this plan will succeed?" you can say, "It's difficult to predict the outcome, but if we stay committed and adaptable, I believe it has strong potential." Repeat that sentence. Very good. Let's work on describing lessons learned from experience. If someone asks, "What has failure taught you?" You might say, "Failure has taught me resilience and self-reflection. It has shown me that setbacks are not the end, but rather opportunities to learn and adjust." Repeat after me. Setbacks are not the end, but rather opportunities to learn and adjust. Excellent. Now, let's practice more natural conversation flow with transitions. If someone shares a story and you want to relate, you can say, "That reminds me of a similar experience I had recently." Repeat. "That reminds me of a similar experience I had recently." Perfect. That phrase keeps the conversation connected. Now, imagine someone asks, "What kind of environment helps you perform your best?" You might respond, "I perform best in environments where communication is open and supportive. When people collaborate and share ideas freely, it motivates me to contribute more actively." Repeat that entire answer slowly. Excellent. Let's practice expressing calm disagreement again, but with more nuance. If someone says, "Hard work alone guarantees success," you could respond, "Hard work is definitely important, but I also believe strategy and timing play significant roles." Repeat. Strategy and timing play significant roles. Very good. Now, we will build a more extended real-life scenario together. I say, "Emma, how do you handle moments of self-doubt?" You respond, "When I experience self-doubt, I try to pause and reflect on my previous achievements. Reminding myself of past successes helps restore my confidence." Repeat that entire response. Excellent. I say, "Do you think self-doubt is always negative?" You respond, "Not necessarily. In small amounts. When self-doubt can encourage self-evaluation and growth, it only becomes harmful when it prevents action." Repeat. It only becomes harmful when it prevents action. Wonderful. I say, "What advice would you give someone struggling with confidence?" You respond, "I would advise them to focus on consistent improvement rather than immediate perfection. Building confidence is a gradual process." Repeat that entire answer. Very good. Now, let's practice expressing ambition more clearly. If someone asks, "What drives your ambition?" you might say, "My ambition is driven by a desire to create meaningful impact and continuously challenge myself. I find fulfillment in growth." Repeat that sentence. I find fulfillment in growth. Excellent. Let's strengthen your ability to describe emotional resilience. If someone asks, "How do you stay calm during conflict?" you could say, "During conflict, I try to listen carefully before reacting. Understanding the other perspective often reduces tension." Repeat. Understanding the other perspective often reduces tension. Very good. Now, let's practice expressing reflection about time. If someone asks, "Do you ever regret past decisions?" you might respond, "Occasionally, I reflect on past decisions and wonder what might have been different. However, I believe every experience contributes to personal growth." Repeat that whole answer slowly. Excellent. Now, we will practice concluding conversations naturally. If you want to end a discussion politely, you can say, "This has been a really insightful conversation. I appreciate your perspective." Repeat. I appreciate your perspective. Perfect. You are now managing complex, thoughtful conversations with structure and confidence. Your responses include acknowledgement, explanation, shine reflection, and follow up. This is exactly how intermediate speakers transition toward advanced fluency. Stay steady, keep your pronunciation clear, and continue allowing your ideas to connect smoothly from one sentence to the next. Now, let's continue by strengthening your ability to handle real-life problem-solving conversations. At the intermediate level, you should be able to explain situations clearly, suggest solutions, and respond thoughtfully when discussing challenges. This is very common in both personal and professional life. Imagine someone says, "I've been struggling to manage my time lately." Instead of responding with something simple like, "You should try harder," you can say, "I understand how that can feel overwhelming. Have you tried organizing your tasks by priority?" Sometimes breaking large responsibilities into smaller steps makes them easier to handle. Repeat that entire response slowly. Very good. Notice how you acknowledge the emotion and then offered a practical suggestion. Now, let's practice expressing concern in a supportive way. Suppose someone says, "I haven't been sleeping well recently." You might respond, "That doesn't sound easy. Do you think stress might be affecting your sleep pattern?" Repeat after me. "Do you think stress might be affecting your sleep pattern?" Excellent. That keeps the conversation thoughtful. Now, we will practice describing cause and effect more clearly. If someone asks, "Why do you think productivity has improved?" You could say, "Productivity has improved because we implemented clearer communication strategies and better time management practices." Repeat that sentence. We implemented clearer communication strategies. Very good. Let's practice giving constructive advice more naturally. If someone says, "I feel stuck in my progress," you might say, "It might help to reassess your goals and adjust your approach slightly. Sometimes a small change can create noticeable improvement." Repeat. Sometimes a small change can create noticeable improvement. Excellent. Now, let's move into deeper discussions about values. If someone asks, "What do you value most in friendships?" You might respond, "I value honesty and mutual support the most. I believe strong friendships are built on trust and understanding." Repeat that entire answer slowly. Very good. Now, let's practice expressing appreciation in more detail. If someone helps you with a difficult task, you could say, "I truly appreciate your support. Your guidance made the situation much clearer and less stressful." Repeat. Your guidance made the situation much clearer and less stressful. Excellent. Now, we will practice discussing long-term planning. Suppose someone asks, "How do you plan your future goals?" You might say, "I try to set realistic milestones and review them regularly. By evaluating my progress, I can adjust my strategy if necessary." Repeat that sentence. By evaluating my progress, I can adjust my strategy if necessary. Perfect. Let's strengthen your ability to describe teamwork. If someone asks, "What makes a team effective?" You might respond, "An effective team communicates openly, respects different perspectives, and works toward a shared goal." Repeat. Works toward a shared goal. Very good. Now, we will practice expressing hesitation in decision-making. If someone asks, "Are you ready to make a final decision?" You could say, "I'm close to making a decision, but I'd like to review a few more details before confirming." Repeat that sentence slowly. Excellent. Let's practice discussing personal habits in a reflective way. If someone asks, how do you stay organized? You might say, I stay organized by planning my week in advance and keeping track of deadlines. Writing things down helps me stay focused. Repeat after me. Writing things down helps me stay focused. Very good. Now, we will combine these ideas into a longer scenario to strengthen your conversational rhythm. I say, Emma, how do you handle unexpected obstacles? You respond, when I face unexpected obstacles, I try to remain calm and analyze the situation logically. Reacting emotionally rarely solves the problem. Repeat that entire answer. Excellent. I say, do you ever feel discouraged when things don't go as planned? You respond, yes, occasionally I do. However, I remind myself that setbacks are part of progress and often provide valuable lessons. Repeat. Setbacks are part of progress and often provide valuable lessons. Wonderful. I say, what strategy helps you recover quickly? You respond, taking a short pause to reassess my priorities helps me regain focus. Once I clarify the next step, the situation feels more manageable. Repeat that sentence. Very good. Now, let's practice discussing long-term improvement again, but with more nuance. If someone asks, what keeps you disciplined? You could say, I stay disciplined by reminding myself of my long-term vision. When I focus on the bigger picture, daily effort feels meaningful. Repeat. When I focus on the bigger picture, daily effort feels meaningful. Excellent. Let's work on expressing balanced perspectives. Suppose someone says, hard work is everything. You might respond, hard work is crucial, but I also think strategy and timing influence success significantly. Repeat that sentence. Very good. Now, let's practice summarizing a discussion clearly. If someone explains a complex idea, you can say, so what you're saying is that preparation and consistency are the keys to improvement. Repeat. Preparation and consistency are the keys to improvement. Excellent. Now, we will strengthen your ability to reflect on personal growth one more time. If someone asks, what has been your biggest improvement recently? You might respond, my biggest improvement has been learning to stay patient during challenges instead of reacting immediately. I now take time to evaluate the situation. Repeat that entire answer slowly. Wonderful. You are now handling extended problem-solving conversations, reflective discussions, and balanced debates with clarity and structure. Your responses are thoughtful, composed, and detailed. This is strong intermediate fluency. Stay focused on clarity, maintain natural rhythm, and continue speaking each practice sentence aloud with confidence. Now, let's continue by strengthening your ability to handle deeper, more analytical conversations. At the intermediate level, you should feel comfortable discussing abstract ideas, personal philosophies, and thoughtful reflections without losing fluency. This is where your speaking begins to sound mature and natural. Imagine someone asks you, what do you think is the biggest obstacle to personal growth? Instead of giving a short answer, structure your response carefully. You might say, I believe, one of the biggest obstacles to personal growth is fear of failure. When people are afraid to make mistakes, they often avoid taking risks, which limits their potential. Repeat that entire response slowly. Excellent. Notice how you stated your opinion clearly and then supported it with reasoning. Now, Let's practice building on that idea. If the person continues and says, "Do you think failure is necessary for success?" you might respond. In many cases, yes. Failure provides valuable lessons and encourages self-reflection. Without experiencing setbacks, it's difficult to truly understand what needs improvement. Repeat. Failure provides valuable lessons and encourages self-reflection. Very good. Now, let's practice expressing long-term perspective. If someone asks, "How do you measure success in your life?" you could say, "I measure success not only by achievements, but also by personal growth and the positive impact I have on others. For me, fulfillment matters more than recognition." Repeat that sentence. Fulfillment matters more than recognition. Excellent. Now, we will practice discussing work-life balance in a thoughtful way. Suppose someone asks, "Do you think people work too much nowadays?" You might respond, "In some cases, yes. While ambition and dedication are important, neglecting personal well-being can lead to burnout. Maintaining balance is essential for long-term productivity." Repeat. Maintaining balance is essential for long-term productivity. Perfect. Let's practice expressing cautious optimism. If someone asks, "Are you confident? Hot about the future?" you might say, "I'm cautiously optimistic. While there are challenges ahead, I believe adaptability and resilience will help us navigate them." Repeat after me. I'm cautiously optimistic. Very good. Now, Sal, let's move into discussing habits and discipline again, but in a more reflective tone. If someone asks, "Why do some people struggle with consistency?" you could say, "Many people struggle with consistency because they focus on quick results, rather than sustainable habits. Real progress often requires patience and discipline." Repeat. Real progress often requires patience and discipline. Excellent. Now, let's practice talking about influence and environment. If someone asks, "How does your environment affect your productivity?" you might respond, "My environment has a significant impact on my productivity. A calm and organized space helps me concentrate and think clearly." Repeat that entire answer slowly. Very good. Now, we will strengthen your ability to give examples naturally. If someone says, "Can you give an example?" you might respond, "For instance, when I organize my workspace before starting a task, I feel more focused and efficient." Repeat. For instance, when I organize my workspace before starting a task. Excellent. Now, let's combine multiple advanced connectors in one response. Suppose someone asks, "Why is mindset so important?" You could say, "Mindset shapes how we respond to challenges." For example, a growth mindset encourages learning from mistakes, whereas a fixed mindset can limit potential. Therefore, developing a positive mindset is crucial. Repeat that entire response slowly. Wonderful. Now, let's practice expressing humility in conversation. If someone compliments your achievements, you might say, "Thank you. I still have a lot to learn, but I'm grateful for the progress I've made so far." Repeat. I still have a lot to learn, but I'm grateful for the progress I've made so far. Excellent. Now, we will practice a more detailed, extended discussion scenario to build fluency. I say, "Emma, what role does self-discipline play in success?" You respond, Self-discipline plays a fundamental role in success because it ensures consistent effort. Talent alone is rarely enough without the discipline to practice and improve. Repeat that entire response. Very good. I say, do you think motivation is more important than discipline? You respond, motivation can inspire action, but discipline, sustains it over time. Without discipline, motivation often fades quickly. Repeat. Discipline sustains it over time. Excellent, I say. How can someone build discipline? You respond. Building discipline starts with small habits. By committing to manageable routines and gradually increasing effort, consistency becomes easier. Repeat that sentence. Wonderful. Now, let's practice describing decision-making more analytically. If someone asks, how do you evaluate important decisions? You might respond, I evaluate important decisions by considering potential risks, benefits, and long-term consequences. I also seek advice from trusted individuals before finalizing my choice. Repeat. I consider potential risks, benefits, and long-term consequences. Very good. Now, let's strengthen your ability to reflect on growth again, but with more emotional awareness. If someone asks, what has been your most meaningful lesson? You might say, my most meaningful lesson has been understanding that growth often requires discomfort. Stepping outside familiar boundaries can feel uncertain, but it leads to transformation. Repeat that entire response slowly. Excellent. Now, let's practice discussing leadership qualities. If someone asks, what makes a good leader? You could say, a good leader listens actively, communicates clearly, and inspires others through integrity and vision. Repeat. Inspires others through integrity and vision. Very good. Now, let's practice ending a deep discussion gracefully. If the conversation feels complete, you can say, I've really enjoyed discussing these ideas. Conversations like this always help me think more clearly. Repeat that sentence. Excellent. At this point, you are handling analytical discussions, abstract ideas, structured reasoning, and balanced opinions with confidence. Your answers are layered, thoughtful, and connected. This is strong intermediate fluency approaching advanced clarity. Stay. Or steady. Continue speaking each sentence out loud and maintain natural pacing as your ideas flow smoothly. Now, let's complete this masterclass by strengthening your ability to handle fully developed, real-world conversations that combine clarity, emotion, reasoning, and natural flow. At this stage, you are not simply answering questions. You are expressing identity, perspective, and depth. That is the real transformation from basic to intermediate fluency. Imagine someone asks you, if you could give one piece of advice to your younger self, what would it be? Instead of answering quickly, structure your response thoughtfully. You might say, if I could give one piece of advice to my younger self, it would be to trust the process more and worry less about immediate results. Growth takes time, and patience is often more powerful than pressure. Repeat that entire response slowly. Growth takes time, and patience is often more powerful than pressure. Excellent. Now, let's practice expressing personal philosophy more clearly. Suppose someone asks, what helps you stay grounded during stressful times? You could respond, "What helps me stay grounded is focusing on what I can control rather than what I cannot. By concentrating on small and manageable actions, I reduce unnecessary anxiety." Repeat. By concentrating on small, manageable actions, I reduce unnecessary anxiety. Very good. Now, let's strengthen your ability to describe transformation. If someone asks, "How have you changed as a person over the years?" You might say, "Over the years, I've become more reflective and intentional in my decisions. I no longer react impulsively. Instead, I try to respond thoughtfully." Repeat that sentence. I try to respond thoughtfully. Excellent. Now, we will practice handling long, reflective discussions in a natural flow. I say, "Emma, what does personal growth mean to you?" You respond, "Personal growth means continuously learning, adapting, and improving. It's about becoming more self-aware and making choices that align with your values." Repeat that entire response. Very good. I say, "Do you believe growth ever truly ends?" You respond, "No, I believe growth is a lifelong journey. As long as we remain open to learning and new experiences, there is always room for development." Repeat, "There is always room for development." Excellent, I say. "What is one habit that has changed your life?" You respond, "One habit that has significantly impacted my life is daily reflection. Taking a few minutes each day to evaluate my actions and thoughts has improved my awareness and decision-making." Repeat that sentence. Wonderful. Now, let's practice expressing balanced long-form answers that feel complete and structured. If someone asks, "How do you define happiness?" You might say, "For me, happiness is not constant excitement or perfection. It is a sense of inner peace and satisfaction with the direction of my life. It comes from meaningful relationships, purposeful work, and gratitude for small moments." Repeat that entire response slowly. Excellent. Now, let's strengthen your ability to connect ideas in one continuous response. Suppose someone asks, "What motivates people to succeed?" You could respond, "People are motivated by different factors. Some are driven by ambition and achievement, while others are motivated by responsibility or passion. Ultimately, long-term success often depends on discipline and resilience." Repeat, ultimately, long-term success often depends on discipline and resilience. Very good. Now, let's practice responding thoughtfully in a challenging discussion. If someone says, "I feel like I'm not progressing fast enough," you might respond, "Progress is rarely linear. Sometimes growth happens quietly, in the background, and we only recognize it when we look back. Staying consistent is more important than moving quickly." Repeat that sentence. Staying consistent is more important than moving quickly. Excellent. Now, let's practice expressing maturity in communication. If someone asks, "How do you handle conflict with others?" You could say, "When handling conflict, I try to listen carefully and avoid reacting impulsively. Understanding the other perspective often reveals common ground." Repeat, understanding the other perspective often reveals common ground. Very good. Now, we will complete with one extended conversation that combines reflection reasoning, and emotional awareness. I say, Emma, what has been the biggest factor in your improvement? You respond, the biggest factor in my improvement has been consistency. Even on days when I felt unmotivated, I continued practicing. Over time, those small efforts accumulated into noticeable progress. Repeat that entire response. Excellent, I say. Did you ever feel like giving up? You respond, yes, there. Mock were moments of doubt. However, I reminded myself that temporary frustration does not define long-term potential. Repeat. Temporary frustration does not define long-term potential. Wonderful, I say. What mindset shift made the biggest difference for you? You respond, the biggest mindset shift was understanding that mistakes are not signs of failure, but signs of effort. Once I accepted that, I became more confident and less afraid of speaking. Repeat that entire sentence slowly. Excellent. Now, take a moment and reflect on your own progress. At the beginning, you practiced expanding simple answers. Then you learned to connect ideas, express emotions, describe experiences, handle disagreement, give advice, and discuss abstract ideas. Now, that you are able to sustain thoughtful conversations with clarity and confidence. Your sentences are structured. Your ideas flow logically. You use connectors naturally. You provide examples and explanations. You respond with balance and reflection. That is the transition from basic English to strong intermediate fluency. Keep practicing these conversation patterns regularly. Speak out loud. Expand your answers. Ask follow-up questions. Reflect on your experiences. Over time, fluency is natural and automatic. Thank you so much for staying with me throughout this entire masterclass. Your dedication to practicing, repeating, and speaking out loud truly makes a difference. Remember, fluency is not built in one day. It grows through consistent effort, patience, and the courage to keep speaking even when it feels challenging. Today, you didn't just listen. You practiced expanding your answers, connecting ideas, expressing emotions, giving opinions, handling disagreements, and managing longer conversations with confidence. That is real progress. Every sentence you repeated, every idea you structured, and every reflection you spoke aloud is helping your brain think more naturally in English. Keep using these conversation patterns in your daily life. When someone asks you a simple question, don't stop at one short sentence. Add detail, share a reason, express a feeling. Ask a follow-up question. The more you interact in English, the more automatic your fluency will become. Most importantly, be patient with yourself. Growth is gradual. Some days will feel easier than others, but consistency always wins in the long run. Keep challenging yourself, keep practicing out loud, and keep believing in your progress. I'm proud of the effort you've made today. Stay confident, stay focused, and continue speaking English every single day.